Hello YouTube, Dave here again. So today was Free RPG Day. I hope everyone that has local game stores in their area were able to go and get some cool stuff on this day. I know it's a little bit different than other years, at least where we live here in Nova Scotia. Businesses are still sort of using restrictions on, gatherings and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to run any games for Free RPG Day. Which is always a bit of a shame because I had a lot of fun doing it last year, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. But this year I just sort of missed out on it, unfortunately. But the Free RPG Day kits, I have to say, looked a lot better this year than they did last year, and presumably like in the years past. There was only one item in the box that was a one of, which the local game store owner that I went to get the stuff that I'm going to show off here. He basically, wanted me to take it because I've been running several games there over the course of the last few years, and it's helped generate a decent amount of RPG sales. Like pretty much every session, at least, two or three of the players would end up buying something, even if it was like just a booster of minis, or one of the books, or one of the card-based accessories, or Game Master screen, whatever it was. It always helps sales, and so I guess I helped out with that, and to show appreciation, I guess for that, at least according to what I was told, that's the reason that they ended up continuing to get the Free RPG Day stuff, even though they couldn't run events in store, which honestly it did mean a lot to me, I have to say. But anyway, let's get into some of the things that I picked up on this day. The first thing isn't necessarily connected to Free RPG Day because it didn't come in the same kit as everything else, but this is a set of maps from the Mystic Odysseys of Theros. Now, seeing something like this leads me to believe that they probably won't do a Maps and Miscellany set for it, which I think is a little bit of a shame, but the local store that I deal with, they ended up getting a stack of these, and they got several more of these maps than they actually had copies of the book. So with that in mind, the owner offered one of these to me. I think they had actually sold out all their copies of the book already, which is great, which is fantastic. I'm glad that they were able to do that, even under current circumstances. So yeah, I was more than happy to take this. It was a little bit of a pain to get it back home though, because this is all one sheet, and it was an abnormally breezy day in Dartmouth. I guess not abnormally, but it was just a really breezy day, so I didn't want to get this like kinked up, so I had to hold it in this very particular way to try to keep the wind from catching it. But what this is, like I said, it looks like sort of a full sheet that would probably normally be cut if you were to put this in an actual retail product. But it's still pretty cool. So we have some different, like I said, different maps and locations from the Theros book, including some like underworld locations, some ancient ruins or temples. You have like the sacred volcanic forge. I'm pretty sure that these are all in the actual book. I'll actually have to check that out. But this was something I had no idea even existed. Like I didn't know that this was even a thing. So it was really cool to get this. Completely unexpected, but it was actually really cool to be able to pick this up. And again, some really cool looking, decent maps here. And I don't know, I like sort of the blotted page itself. I don't know, it just looks really nice. Even if the maps aren't colorful, they actually use a decent amount of color on just the background itself. That I like it. I actually really like it. So that's pretty cool. I don't have a ton of room left on this table, but we'll try to get some here. Okay. So now as for the actual items that I picked up from the Free RPG Day kit, like I said, they did a great job of having just huge stacks of everything, unlike the last year at least, but I know there was an issue before where, like I said, you had a lot of one-ofs or maybe like two or three ofs. This one, every single thing that I'm about to show, with one exception, had like probably well over like a dozen or close to 24 copies, so which was great. It means that there's plenty for everyone. The first thing that I actually picked up though is a set of Q Workshop dice, or not a set, I should say. They did have 3 or 4 different sets of dice that they had, but they were all sort of bundled up like this. So you had 2 die, per bag, or per little baggie here. Now, last year I got one of the Starfinder ones, and it was just the D20, so the D20 was the only one that I wanted to get this year as well. I thought it might be sort of a fun thing to collect D20s each year for Free RPG Day. But this one actually came with the D4, which is weirdly the second die I would probably pick up if the D20 wasn't available. But this one here has this really cool pattern around it, with like these runes sort of on, the sides of the numbers. I don't know how well it's going to show up here. But the thing that I like about it is that the numbers are still super readable. I have a friend who has a bunch of kind of funky dice sets, and literally none of them are easy to read. So this one you can still make out the numbers pretty clearly, which is great. And yeah, so D20 and D4. The next thing that we have here is Volume 1, 2020, Level 1 Free RPG Day Indie RPG Anthology. So what this looks like is sort of a collection of different little role-playing things for different publishers. So they're sort of all put together in one in one bundle, which I think is kind of a neat way of doing it. It cuts down on the production costs for the individual companies because they can all sort of share everything together. But here we have a little bit of stuff here for Torchbearer 2nd edition. I've never actually heard of this at all, but this is from, I see what company puts this out. But again, I think this is a really cool idea, and I hope to see more of this. I hope they do like Volume 2, like Level 2, or whatever, next year as well. And we have Bird Trek, so again, just a lot of different systems here. And like I said, this is a really neat way to introduce people to new systems, to new companies that they may not otherwise normally hear of. So yeah, I really like this all around. And I think it's a cool system. I think it's a cool concept to bundle all these together. So you got quite a few different companies in here. Green Ronin I recognize. RPG Geek I think I've heard of. USA Opoly. Anyway, so some cool stuff in here. Like I said, I really like this idea of having this sort of bundle with different companies. The next two things here are based off of the Kids on Bikes RPG, which I honestly know very little about. I picked up a Kids on Bikes thing last year, but these are Kids on Brooms and Junior Brave's Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. And these are both, from what I can tell, these are both sort of like quick start things that you can play right from these booklets themselves, which I think is really great. I always like that about the Free RPG Day stuff, especially for, again, some of the more obscure RPGs, or some of the ones that just don't get a lot of the mainstream attention. So to have it so that you can essentially play it right from these little booklets is a great way to get you hooked, and then you may want to pick up the actual full system. So I think that this is really, really cool. Again, I don't know much about the system, but it's something I might want to change. I know Kids on Bikes, I think, was sort of designed around, or sort of themed off of the Stranger Things Netflix series, which I still haven't actually sat down to watch yet. So one of these days, I hope to do that. But yeah, it's just kind of cool to have some more stuff to look through and read through. And then we have our apocalyptic one here. And they have sort of different formats or different styles to them, different art styles. So yeah, it's just, again, really cool to see the way that they do this. The next thing I got here is Keyforge: Secrets of the Crucible. This is from Fantasy Flight Games, and this is based off of the Genesis RPG system. And it seems similar to like what they did with the Star Wars Edge of the Empire, I think it was, or some of the different Star Wars RPGs that have come out over the last few years. For example, looking at the, I think they show it here. Yeah, here we go. Just looking at the dice, the different dice that you have, and some of the symbols and stuff on them. So this one is, it says you can use anything here, or you can use this with just this one book. Now, when it comes to the dice types, I guess you would have to know how many like what numbers would equal what sides, or you'd have to get a set of these dice as well. But it'd be interesting to check this out. I kind of regret never picking up any of at least the starter sets for the Star Wars RPGs that, when they came out. So this might, finally nudge me towards trying to get something, at least from Fantasy Flight Games. Because this does look like an interesting system. And then you've got your adventure there as well, which is really cool. Some really fantastic artwork. And like Keyforge, I believe, is a card game, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I never played the card game either, but it still, looks like a very interesting world, very interesting. So the artwork's really cool. The rule system, or the dice mechanic, seems kind of neat. So something that I'll have to look further into one of these days. But yeah, so there we got that one there. Then up next is Warhammer 40,000 Roleplay, Wrath and Glory, and Reign of Mercy. So I'm assuming Reign of Mercy is the name of the adventure. Now, unlike the other ones that I've shown so far, this one does not look like a quick start guide. I want to say that this gets right into the sort of the adventure, or the setting, I guess, itself. So this is something you would need. The other, like the core books, you need those for that, but it still looked kind of interesting. Oh. And again, there were tons of copies of everything, which is great, so I decided to pick that up as well. Up next, this one here seems very interesting, although again, I know like absolutely nothing about it, but this is Overlate. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, but it says it's a role-playing game of kaleidoscopic journeys, so it's very colorful, to say the very least. And I want to say that this is a quick start guide as well, but I could be wrong. No, actually, I think this is just an adventure, so you might need the actual system book here as well. It looks like we got some characters, so maybe not. Actually, you might be able to run everything based off of this. Actually, yeah, no, sorry, I was wrong. It just has the adventure in the beginning, so it does give you a quick start guide. So that's actually really, really cool. I've never heard of Overlate. I've never heard of Renegade Game Studios or Lightbreaker Studios. So this one's going to be kind of interesting to read through, and who knows, maybe I'll do a video on it once I get the opportunity to read through. But again, it just looked super colorful. It definitely leaped out at you, and like I said, there were plenty of them. So again, something I had to grab a copy of. And then up next, Dungeon Crawl Classic RPG. So this is another quick start guide with a brand new adventure. So this is sort of your beginner type of introductory product, but the cover is actually really, really cool because it's sort of got this like gold, like the black and gold. It actually looks really, really nice. I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but the gold part actually reflects the light really well. It looks pretty cool. So I believe the quick start rules are the same as what we had with last year's product, but the adventure is going to be different. Dungeon Crawls Classic is sort of, I believe it's what's referred to as an OSR game, or Old School Revival, or Old School Resurrection, however they refer to it as. So it's kind of based off of like old school, like original Dungeons and Dragons or something sort of along those lines. This is sort of, it's its own system as well, but it's themed off of those, or it's sort of based off of those. But here we have, like I said, we have a different adventure than we had last year. So the Portal Under the Stars is the name of the adventure here. So yeah, again, I'm totally okay with that. Then you got like the Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classic sort of style of artwork on the back. But yeah, I really loved that cover. I thought that looked awesome. All right, so we are down to the last two of the booklets. So the main things that I'm always looking to get with these free RPG days would be the stuff from Paizo Publishing. The first one we have here is the Pathfinder 2nd Edition adventure, Little Trouble in Big Absalom. So this is, honestly, at first I was a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed, because that's probably not the right phrase. But generally, in years past, the Pathfinder adventures have always revolved around goblins. But this year, they actually revolve around kobolds. Now, part of the reason for that is the Advanced Player's Guide is coming out later in the month of July. So they wanted to have this sort of tie into that book. And kobolds are one of the new races available to play, or one of the new ancestries available to play in that book. So they decided to go with kobolds this year. And honestly, at first I was like, oh, that kind of was not what I was expecting. But it still, it still has the charm of the goblin ones. And I love the Pathfinder 2nd Edition style kobolds. I just love the, sort of the art design that they went with for them, just the way that they look. So overall, this looks like a really fun adventure to run. We have some new items in here, some heritage stuff, kobold feats. So this is sort of like a preview. It doesn't give you the stats for the ancestry, which is fine because, again, that book is coming out relatively soon. But it gives you your ready-made characters here. And who doesn't love, a kobold who thinks they're a dragon with the, with the little dragon wings sewn into their costumes. And to me, that's, I think, one of the things that I've always liked about the Pathfinder adventures, at least the free RPG Day ones. I just love the silliness of the way the characters are designed, but in a great way. I absolutely love it. So we have a female kobold sorcerer by the name of Grinmer, and her deal is that she believes herself to be a dragon mage, even though the bloodline, the sorcerer's bloodline, is actually demonic. So instead of having like dragon magic, it's actually sort of this magic that's dark and foreboding, but really cool nonetheless. Then you have Isni, the female kobold druid, and she has a pet cat named Precious, which we have there, and her melee weapon is a sharpened spade for gardening. So again, that's just so cool. I just love those little design things. And then we have Quizril, our female kobold rogue. And with this one, so the weapon is like a light mace, but it's clearly just a meat tenderizer, which I think is pretty cool. Then we have Rin, which is a male kobold bard. And then Simic, a male kobold fighter. And he has a halberd, which is literally a kitchen knife taped or strapped to a stick, which, again, I just love those little details there. So really cool stuff there. And yeah, this is an adventure that I would definitely look forward to running. So I think this is another great one. And then for Starfinder, we have Skitter Home. So this is the third year that we've had sort of the Skitter series of adventures. I think this is the fourth year that Starfinder's been out overall. The first year it was sort of their quick start guide, which I forget the name of it, unfortunately. I have it as a PDF. But then we had Skitter Shot, which was the first adventure. We had Skitter Crash, which was last year's. And now we have Skitter Home, where our Skittermanders return back to their homeworld of Vesk 3. And sort of the adventure that we go on there. Now, this artwork absolutely, I simultaneously loved and shuddered when I saw it, because this reminds me of the hot rodding teens from Dimension X, from like the original Ninja Turtles, and it was really cringy to see them, but I don't know. I still, at the same time, I still kind of like art that seems to be at least a subtle or not so subtle reference. So again, these are just sort of short adventures. These are definitely meant to be like one-shots. that you can run. Like this is something that I would have liked to have run at the actual event if it would have been possible, but that's okay. And we have our creatures, or no, this is sort of this part of the adventure, sorry. And then we have our pre-made characters. So these are the same characters that we've had the last couple of years, but just sort of upgraded for higher levels. So these ones are all now 4th level. The first adventure, I think they were all 2nd level, and they were all 3rd level, I think, last year. So now we have these 4th level characters, which is, again, great. I still think Nako is one of my favorites there. But yeah, it's just, again, really cool to see the Skitter Commander characters continue to grow and develop. So this is something I look forward to every single year. So those were the booklets that I picked up, and then the final item that that I got was this. This was the only item that was one of in the entire box, but this is sort of a preview of the WizKids Warlock Tile system. So I'm actually going to do a separate video looking at these, but this was something that I honestly didn't know or expect was in the kit. I haven't looked up anything since like it was first announced or when they first changed the date to July 25th. But again, this is something I'm kind of interested in because I wanted to take a closer look at the Warlock Tiles ever since they were announced. They are a little bit pricey here in Canada. So that's sort of been a bit of a difficulty in terms of trying to actually pick one of them up. But this should give me at least a halfway decent idea of what they're like. So those were the items that I picked up this year from Free RPG Day. So let me know in the comments below what items did you pick up from your local game store during Free RPG Day. Was your store able to run events, or were you able to get other stuff? Maybe they had a sale on RPG things. Just let me know some of the cool pickups you got during your Free RPG Day excursion, if you were able to go on one. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Take care.